So, coming now from the Torah portion of Re'eh. Re'eh means to see, and wanted to share a story about Shem Tov, which expresses how there are certain tzaddikim who can see from one end of the world to the other. It says when Hashem made the world, Hashem brought to the world a light that Adam could see from one end of the world to the other. And then Hashem hid the light. And the Talmud asks, where was the light hidden? And the Talmud answers, light was hidden in the Torah. The light with which Hashem allowed Adam to see from one end of the world, that light is hidden in the Torah. So, although light's hidden in the Torah, the tzaddikim, they could look in the Torah, and they could see from one end of the world to the other. So there's a Maimer of the Alter Rebbe, which says a story of the Baal Shem Tov, how this guy wanted to know where his oxen were, and the Baal Shem Tov opened the Zohar, and the Zohar doesn't really have the address of the oxes, but Baal Shem Tov looked in the Zohar, and through looking in the Zohar, he could see from one end of the world to the other. So the Alter Rebbe's discourse explains that the Baal Shem Tov didn't just have prophecy. Prophecy is something else. Shem Tov could actually see from one end of the world to the other through this light that was hidden in the Torah. So he told this guy where to go get his oxen. And the Rebbe said that it could be... Yeah, I'm sorry, the video's not working. I know what's wrong. It could be that... is that better? There you go. It could be that the reason why, in the way the Maimer is printed, you don't actually see this story, but it is in the manuscript of the Alter Rebbe. The reason why it's not printed that way could be is because, what's the connection between oxen and the Zohar? But the reason why it actually happened that way, the reason why this is the truth, this is a story, is because there is that light in the Zohar, and tzaddikim could see from one end of the world to the other with that light. And the reason why the Zohar talks about oxen, so to speak, is because Hashem creates the whole world. There's no place void of Hashem. Hashem is everywhere. So why would Hashem's light not tell you where the oxen were? Baal Shem Tov knew that in Bresla, the guy could find his oxen, and he knew this from the Zohar. He knew this from the light of Hashem, which was hidden in the Zohar. Because the light of Hashem is a light of reality, light of truth, and it pervades all of reality. So that story expresses a important message to each of us. Although we're not the Baal Shem Tov, we can't see the light of Hashem hidden in the Torah. But this Torah portion we just came from invites us to look beneath the surface and to recognize the truth and reality of Hashem, like things we see with our eyes. Just like when we see something with our eyes, we know for sure this is what it is. So too, Hashem tells us it's possible for you to have a vivid relationship with Hashem. Just like it says about doves, that doves look at each other with love. So too, a Jew is able to have a vivid perception of Hashem, and therefore to have a pleasure in his Torah mitzvahs, because he sees something differently. Now it sounds like a very tall order, but that's the point of farbrengen together and sharing stories of inspiration to lift us up from the way things seem, and to bring us to where we should be and we can be. So I begin with sharing another story of the Baal Shem Tov, which was printed in Sichas Aner, this well-to-do man came to Baal Shem Tov, and he didn't have anything particular that he wanted to ask Baal Shem Tov about. He just came to Baal Shem Tov. He said, I heard about you, and I wanted to learn more about you. And that's why I'm here. So Baal Shem Tov said to him, looked at him very seriously, and said to him, I want to tell you a story. He said there were these two friends that grew up together. And one of them became very wealthy, and one of them had a very hard time financially. And the Baal Shem Tov continued the story, and he said the guy who was not doing well financially, he knew that his friend from elementary school had become very wealthy. So he decided he's going to go and go visit him. Maybe he'll be able to get help by his friend. So Reuven, the poor man, goes to Shimon, the rich man's house, hoping Shimon will help him. Shimon invites him in. And Shimon hears the situation. And Shimon says, listen, we've always been good friends. We always shared our snacks together in school. So he called his accountant, and he found out how much liquid cash he has. He said, we're going to split everything evenly. We always shared. I want to split everything evenly. Whatever I have, I'm giving you half. Can you imagine the elation of this poor man hearing this? He gave him quite a lot of money, and he went off, and this poor man became very, very successful. I don't remember who I called Reuven and who I called Shimon. But let's stick with Reuven being the rich man who shared all of his wealth with his friend Shimon. Shimon has now taken what Reuven gave him, and he has doubled and tripled the investment that Reuven had in him, and now Shimon's doing really, really well. But unfortunately for Reuven, after he gave and shared with Shimon all of this money, Reuven's fortune started going down. Reuven started going down exponentially, and he was really having a hard time. So Reuven thought to himself, you know what, I'll go visit my friend Shimon. Shimon surely be able to help me. I heard Shimon's doing really well. Maybe Shimon will be able to help me. Reuven goes to Shimon's house, and Shimon's attendant sees this poor man by the door, and he says, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know, you're obviously a new person here, but you don't know, but my boss doesn't help people. So you're not really going to get help here. It's just not worth it for you to stay here. So he's like, I can understand that might happen with other people, but we're really close friends for a long time. Please tell him that his good friend Shimon is here. So Reuven says, I don't know who Shimon is. And Shimon is so distraught. I mean, here he traveled specially to see his friend. His friend says, I don't know who you are. I don't know you. Leave me alone. He was so distraught, he went back home. And not only was he having a hard time financially, and that led to him not having a lot of other resources that he needed, but he was brokenhearted from seeing his friend turn on him like that. His friend who had helped so much, he'd given his friend all half of his assets. And now his friend had coldly and icily dismissed him. He passed away a little while later. The same time that his friend passed away, Reuven also passed away. And Moshe Levin continued and told this man the story. He said, when they passed away, Reuven, who had shared half of his fortune with his friend Shimon, was immediately invited to go to heaven. But Shimon didn't fare so well. The gates of heaven were closed for him, and instead other gates were opened for him. But Reuven said to the heavenly court, I can't enjoy heaven without my friend Shimon. I can't enjoy it here like this. This is not fun for me. Knowing what you're saying, my friend, I don't want to be here. But the heavenly court is a heavenly court, and they sent him to heaven. But he kept me such a tumult in heaven. I'm not staying here. I want my friend Shimon to be here too. That they brought him back to the heavenly court. And they asked him, Reuben, what do you want? He said, I want my friend Shimon should have another chance. I want Shimon and I to go back to the world again and give him another chance. Let him go and this time he will help me. Give him another chance. And the heavenly court agreed. And then in 2 different cities, Reuben was born and Shimon was born. And Reuben did his thing and Shimon did his thing. And lo and behold, Shimon is very wealthy. Reuben is very poor. I don't know if they had the same names in the next life. But Reuben, the previous Reuben, goes to see his old friend Shimon. And of course they never met each other at this time. And this time Reuben is in need of help from Shimon. He goes to Shimon's door. They never met each other in this lifetime. And he asks Shimon for help. Reuben hadn't eaten for a couple of days. And Shimon icily refuses to help him. And Reuben was so hungry, they just passed away. Again. So the Baal Shem Tov looked at this man. And by now this man had realized that he was Shimon. He recalled how this person had come to his doorstep a few days before, and he didn't want to help him. And how the guy died. And at first he thought, okay, big deal, that wasn't his fault. But then he realized it was his fault. He realized he not only was it his fault, but this was the whole destiny why his soul was in the world. The only reason he was born was to help this man. And so he completely was a ganzen avekelek. The Baal Shem Tov's words completely overwhelmed him. And he said, is there any hope for me? And Baal Shem Tov said, the hope for you is by seeking out the orphans of Reuven, of orphans of, and helping the orphans, and don't enjoy any more of your estate. Instead, divide your estate and give the estate to those less fortunate than yourself. That's the story of Baal Shem Tov, which really brings out how we think we're helping others when we're generous and kind, but really we don't even know the destiny of our soul, where our soul is in history, and the person in need, and what happened in previous lifetimes. It really opens our eyes to the possibility of who is helping who. And this is in sync with this theme of re'eh, of looking deeper, not looking at things under how things seem in the first glance. Looking deeper, realizing the truth of Hashem and the value of a mitzvah, and not looking at just what's comfortable in our circumstances. Which brings me to our featured story. All right, this story was shared on a video in Hebrew. So I'm just going to share the story as best as I recall it. So I watched it again tonight to make sure I have all the details correct. This man is today 55 years old. His name is Yaakov Yosef Anunu. And he said that he at one point was one of the richest Jews in Jerusalem. And when he was 18 years old, he wanted to visit the United States. He wanted to move to the United States. And when he got to America, and he came to immigration, they asked him, where are you going to stay? And instead of answering where he's going to stay, he didn't say anything because he couldn't speak any English. What are you going to do here in America? What's your plan? And he couldn't answer any questions. He didn't speak a word of English. So he had heard that people who can't answer questions in immigration, they are sent back to Israel. And that was what happened to him. They said to him, okay, you're not able to answer our questions, let's go back in the plane. They put him on a plane, and he's on the plane. He knows what's happening, and he's very upset. He said, as my father told me, that whenever something happens that's not to your liking, that's painful, you should always ask yourself, what did I do? What's wrong? What am I missing in my life? Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. So he's there on the plane, and he's thinking about his life. And he's remembering his years in yeshiva in Panovich. He went to yeshiva in Panovich, and he was the only one other Sephardic boy in the whole yeshiva. And he said in the yeshiva, there was a lot of disparaging remarks that were made about the Rebbe. And these boys in yeshiva, that was the environment of the yeshiva in Panovich in those days. And he knew that the Rebbe was not someone that deserved those kind of remarks. No Jew deserves to be spoken ill of. But how much more so a tzaddik. And he knew that the Rebbe was a tzaddik personally because his father and grandfather were very close with the Rebbe's emissaries in Morocco. The Rebbe's emissaries in Morocco had set up a network of schools called Eitzar HaTorah, and his father was educated in those schools. So in his house, the Rebbe was spoken about with the highest regard. So he was thinking now about his silence. At the time, he wanted to be silent because he's the only Sephardic boy in a school of 2,500 students. He doesn't want things to not look good for him. He's anyways the different than everyone else. He didn't like it. He didn't want to make a tzimis, make a tumult. He didn't want to join, but he didn't want to. But he just was silent, and he realized that was a mistake. When you're not allowed to stand by when someone disgraces a tzaddik, you have to make protest. And so he thought, I should have protested. And he said to himself, if Hashem ever brings me to America again, the very first thing I do, I'm going to visit the Rebbe. I'm going to go visit the Rebbe, I'm going to ask the Rebbe for forgiveness. So he says those words, and then someone comes on the plane. The next second, someone comes on the plane, and says, Mr. Venunu, Yaakov Yosef Venunu, and he hears his name, but he's like he's so like in his thoughts, he doesn't respond. And then on the loudspeaker, Yaakov Yosef Venunu, please come off the plane. And he comes off the plane, and they give him this paper which says that he is welcome to come to the United States. And he's like, can't figure out what just happened. They first put him on the plane, now they're taking him off the plane, and the plane went back to Israel, and he was able to enter America. It was about 8 o'clock in the morning. It was a Wednesday or Thursday, doesn't remember exactly what day it was, and the mid-'80s, and he is thinking to himself, I should have fulfilled my words. I should go to the Rebbe and ask the Rebbe for forgiveness. So he saw a Chabad man in the airport, and the man told him where 770 Eastern Parkway was, and he took a taxi to 770 Eastern Parkway. He arrives in 770 with his suitcase, and he wants to right away see the Rebbe. But he quickly discovers you can't just go and see the Rebbe. But he found out also that the Rebbe would arrive to daven for the prayers in the morning at 770, Rebbe's shul, and he'd be able to see the Rebbe. So he waited with everyone with his suitcase, and the Rebbe's car came, was silent. The Rebbe walked out of his car, and when Rebbe saw him, the Rebbe said to him, Yom Rishon, Zuntik, Sunday. He didn't know what Zuntik was. They explained to him, telling him, you should come on Sunday, because on Sunday, the Rebbe was going to give out dollars. Now, the Rebbe didn't really speak to anyone. The Rebbe came out of his car. There wasn't time to speak, and he understood that. But the Rebbe singled him out, and the Rebbe told him, Zuntik, come on Sunday. So he arrived on the line for dollars the following Sunday, and before he could say anything, the Rebbe says to him, Mochalach, 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 it's forgiven, it's forgiven, it's forgiven. And the Rebbe asked him, you don't have to worry about anything. You should. And the Rebbe said to him, come again the following Sunday. And so he came the following Sunday, And Rebbe said to him, Yaakov Yosef. He never saw the Rebbe before. They didn't tell the Rebbe's name. Rebbe said, Yaakov Yosef. Rebbe said to him, you're here, you came here, you should feel good. I hope how are you? How are you feeling? You should feel good. You should have a successful trip. Rebbe blessed him. And he said he was in America for many years, and the Rebbe's blessing was fulfilled in an extraordinary way, and he became so wealthy, as I mentioned, one of the most wealthiest Jews in Yerushalayim. So there are things that we hear about. It's possible to learn a lot of different ideas in Torah and not really take any of them seriously. This week's Torah portion invites us to see the truth, see the emes. And just like you see in these stories, how there's a whole different reality than what seems to our eyes. A Jew makes a decision to do the right thing, and all of a sudden the gates open. He's invited to come into America. Sort of like in this week's Torah portion where it says, open shall you open your hand. As we were learning last week, when you open up your hand to tzedakah, Hashem opens up the doors. This Jew in the story, he opened up his mind and heart to do the right thing. And then Hashem opened up the door to America and the door to financial success. Bottom line is, my friends, we got to not look at things in an external, superficial way. Open our hearts to the will of Hashem and look beneath the surface. Someone asks you for a favor. Don't think they're doing you're doing them a favor. Realize the only reason, as Baal Shem Tov taught, why Neshama comes in this world, is just do another person a favor. It's the only reason we're here. And therefore, that's not really a favor to someone else. It's a favor to yourself. That's a reason why we're here. And Hashem should help us all. We should see the true tzedakah of Hashem, gathering all the Jewish people, and just like Hashem gets tzedakah, as the Talmud says, by scattering us all throughout all nations. Each person has a mission, a reason why they are and wherever they are. We should see also the reverse. Tzedakah, Baruch Hashem should do tzedakah for us and gather us from all nations and bring us to Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim HaKodesh, Mashiach Zakein Mekarav Mamish. A good tevach, a freilich tevach.